It's in the program this morning on ITV, and welcome back to the Abuja Network studio. Well, that was Evans there taking us through some dailies from the Benin Network Center. Of course, the last paper there, Daily Trust, where he said tomato is now good. Well, it's one stable meal for Nigerians here, especially those who are fond of rice and stew. Definitely you have to get your fresh tomato from the market for you to prepare your stew. That's if you don't want adulterated paste from the tomato paste we have. So many of them in the market. But the question is, how do we begin to have these perishable goods available at all times? Because tomato is not something you plant during the rainy season because it does not need so much water. It's very scarce because the rain tends to damage tomato farms because the water is too much. And most people who engage in perishable things like tomato and pepper normally do that through irrigation farming, and that's why you have it more during the dry season. You have tomato a bit cheaper, but we just hope that we will look beyond just having paste. I know somewhere in the north where people harvest this tomato, dry it, and then when we are having scarcity like this, they just go back and use the dry product, and it still produces stew for you. Well, that's just on the lighter side of tomato becoming good. Back here in Abuja, we shall be looking at the National Assembly race for those who want to become want to be at the head of affairs for the two houses, as the Senate and the House of Representatives in the National Assembly. Don't forget that we've been having so much gimmicks, so much permutation. Who now becomes the president of the Senate? Who becomes the Speaker of the House of Representatives? Not until a fortnight ago or 2 nights ago when we got a release from the APC giving us names of their own preferred candidates for the two major positions, and it has not really gone down well with some party members and some stakeholders, especially from different zones of the country, where people have been clamoring that this position should be zoned to states or areas that have not really enjoyed power in a very long while. So to look at all this, I have in the studio our regular in-house political economics, Adefolari Olamileko is here with me. Good morning.
Very good morning to you.
Yeah, let's begin with the whole scenario of trying to know who becomes the Senate president, because before now they were all permutations.
Exactly.
So many persons came out indicating interest. Some persons say due to our contribution during the last presidential elections, we were able to give the president-elect so much vote. Some persons are saying we need it because we've not tested power for a very long time.
Exactly.
Looking at the entire scenario, why this whole permutation of who becomes the Senate president?
I think it's not something that is very new in especially in this Fourth Republic since 1999. If you go do a retrospect of what has been happening since 1990, you discover these are the same agitation that normally comes the moment there's a new dispensation. I remember in 1999 when the new government came in civilian under President Olusegun Obasanjo, we have the same scenario till the party come out and begin to say this is the way we want to go. And at that time, many people believe in party supremacy, and that's how PDP was able to produce the Senate president from the southeast. Even though there was challenge at the end of the day, they have to change the Senate president almost like 3 times before they finally got someone that was stable before the end of that tenure. Then in the second dispensation, during the Yar'Adua era, we also have the same acrimony about who is going to be the Senate president, who's going to come and rest of them, and all goes down in a way that at the end of the day, the party decide, although the members of the National Assembly also have a force on who eventually become the leader.
I wanted us to speak also. Let's look at it while you look at both sides, party and the National Assembly, which is more supreme in terms of selecting party leaders.
I think from a political economy angle, which I'm going to express some of this issue, it boils down to the interests of individual as well as the party hierarchy. Now, at the party hierarchy, they will tell you it's about inclusion, it's about equity, it's about justice. But at the membership level, it's about interest that boils down to individual taking choice position. You know, when a leader emerges in the House, either at the Senate or the Speaker, it now boils down who become chairman of this, chairman of that, members of this, members of that. But at the national level, which are the NWC of the particular party, they are looking at the geographical spread of how they can be able to gain voters in the next election, as well as be able to distribute the largesse that come to the national level at the party at the national level in that way. So it boils down to just the interest at the membership level in the National Assembly, and interest at the party hierarchy in terms of the NWC of the party, as well as the president in power or governors of each of the states that control the center, the government at the center. And it's all about interest. So what is playing out now is the interest of each individual, either at the national party level or at the members of the National Assembly level. And that's what we can say at this point in time.
So if you're saying that party's agenda is more of zoning, and then now let's look at the ruling party, for instance, that gave us names based on ruling as zoning, and some persons are still saying it was not the right way to have gone about it.
Exactly.
Now, two particular areas. For instance, the Senate President is from the South, the Speaker is from the Northwest, the Deputy Senate President from the Northwest. Now they're not saying that this is not the kind of zoning they want. It's already building some kind of discourse between the party members.
Exactly, that will what we are going to be expecting and be seeing, even until there will be stability in the National Assembly. But as I said earlier,
why did they get it right from the very beginning? Why do we still have this problem of some zone trying to say, okay, because we were able to give the president-elect more votes, we should be able to get juicy positions?
Okay, let's even estray each candidate. Let's say for the Senate, I believe that one has been settled. It has been settled in a sense that with the equity distribution that the party is trying to see and put across to Nigerians, that okay, we are going to be a party that are going to accommodate every zone in our calculation of distribution of position. I think the Senate own has been settled, except PDP will pull a string when the House is resumed properly, when the Senate is resumed.
Candidates. Okay, now let's look at the candidates that want to vie for the Senate position. If you're saying for the APC, it has been settled
at the Senate level.
At the Senate level,
yes.
And we have other persons like the Southeast clamoring for that same.
You know that the Southeast can get it from the APC.
Why can't they get it?
The essence is just like what you have pointed out. When the party hierarchy, party structure is looking at the vote that comes from each of those particular zones, and again, the character of the person that was involved. You want to mention Orji Kalu. It has been stated that throughout the campaign of APC presidential campaign, he was not part of the campaign team, and he was a member that was supposed to be there. So they look at all those things in your own particular contribution. I wish someone else like Umahi that was asked to step down, and Dr. David Umahi stepping down for Akpabio was on the basis of the interest that definitely Umahi will be compensated in another way around. But we are talking about Kalu that have been at the forefront, that even visited the president-elect that want to be the Senate president. He knows that during the campaign period, he was not part of the campaign trail, even though he was supposed to be there. You can see how politics normally play out when it comes to the interest. Now, on the speakership aspect is something that we need to settle. First and foremost, the people from the North Central.
Let me get you to clarify this part now. If you are talking about equality in distribution of power, and now, since you established now that Kalu was not really seen in terms of campaign and other things for the president-elect in the Southeast.
Exactly.
Now, if you're talking about equality, where does this match?
The establishing equality.
Should we put party interests before the interests of the zone?
Now, party interest is there. Now, the zone interest is also there. Now, what was the interest of the zone during the presidential election? You must consider that, because these politicians, they don't think the way some of us think. Even though they put across to us that, okay, they are throwing the equality card, they are throwing the justice card, they are throwing the fairness card. In between them, they know that this has to do with the interest that will help them in future election. And you know that the Southeast, in the last 8 years of the APC ruling, they have always given the APC a bit of their vote, not as expected. And in this compensation now, in giving out the Senate president, they look at the zone that give them what they want. And the South actually give them the vote they want. And again, it's also sing a song into the architecture of Nigerian, political terrain, this period, that as the South is bring back into the architecture of Nigerian political terrain, it shows that there is a big interest that the South is going to play in the next 4 years of President Tinubu, and they want to capture on that, and especially our petrodollar economy. So if you remember when the South when we have a president from the South, you can understand what the petro economy was doing to our economy in terms of the impact. And I want to believe that these are one of the sense that the president-elect administration want to throw into the jab of our our political economy as well as our political terrain, in the sense that he wants a buy-in of the South people, especially in the protection of our economy architecture, especially the petrodollar. And if he does that by bringing that person into government at that particular level, he have a way of stabilizing the petrodollar economy in one way or the other. And that's what I think we'll be putting across.
Probably that should be your analysis as a political economics. Now let's go to the chambers itself. We know very well that there are other parties. If you look at the outcome of the last election, there are other smaller parties that
Exactly.
emerge, and they have few numbers. And there is this permutation among these parties that, okay, we are going to form an opposition and probably liaise with the opposition party. Which is PDP, to see how they can now give APC a run for their money.
Definitely. We are expecting that.
We are expecting that. And when you now look at the profile of other candidates who are vying for this position, are you saying now that competency should not be looked at in terms of giving positions?
Definitely competency will be looked at. And nobody is saying that these 4 guys are, is it Abbas, is it Dambuwa?
We're looking at other candidates.
I'm coming to them. Like there's a PDP candidate from Bayelsa State that is also throwing his weight in the ring. He has been in the house for close to 12 years now. I think this will be his 14th years. He has been even the one that has been bringing all the opposition parties together. And although one of the opposition parties have said that they want to go and vote in bloc, that is the LP, about 34 of their House of Reps members say they want to go and vote in bloc. But the key message is this, or the key outward of what is going to happen is this. House of Reps members, they normally have interest at stake. And that interest boils down to what they are going to get individually before they think about their party. And that's why sometimes when if you look at the permutation of the numbers of this group, APC is having 177 House of Reps. The other people are having 181. Just 5 difference. And now if APC can pull their house together and be able to get some of the opposition party members to join them, that means the opposition party in their alliance cannot work. But on the other hand, the alliance of the opposition party can also pull some of the APC members to, especially those ones that are angry, like the Dagowa, like Wase, like one other Beretta that is also angry that say want to contest. But on the issue of those APC guys that the party is not considering, is also on the basis of where does the person come from. Like now, the Betera that has been championing that he want to be, is from Northeast. And they reminded him that already you have a deputy vice president from the Northeast, so you can't vie for that position. Although the other guys are also contesting, not central people that are also agitating that they're supposed to produce the speaker, although we can accommodate their grievances. But what the party is looking at is the spread of votes and what they get from each of the region. And again, what the region governors have been playing in this particular 2023 February election, the presidential election. If we look at the Northwest governors, from all of them, they participate actively in what gives the current president, the president-elect, the vote that's bringing him to power. So those are the permutations they have looked at. But we cannot rule out the schemings, the shenanigans that are going to happen on June 6th. We cannot rule it out. But what I'm trying to say is that the party structure from the national level, I've seen the best fit that this is what we can have at this point in time. And don't forget that they are also the deputy speakership to the Southeast. Not that the South outrightly rule out of this permutation. The Southeast is going for the deputy speakership, even though it has been the Senate president they are looking for. So we must not rule out all this. And again, if the Southeast is having deputy speakership, automatically the deputy speakership, the person they are picking, must go and rally around his brothers and sisters in the other opposition party and say, after all, we have gotten this, can we work with this? And this will be better for us. And that is how politics is always seen as something that has to do with not war, but Georgia.
Like I asked you earlier, competency and zoning or party interest. Now, if you are looking at all these candidates that are vying for these positions, to the detriment of the people they are representing. If you now say, okay, fine, I'm giving someone from this zone simply because they play actively in ensuring that the party gets the ticket or the party gets a much vote from that area. What about those other persons from the other zones that did not get more? What now happened to their own representatives in that place who now fight for their own interests?
I think at the party level, although I would not want to be antagonized on the issue, but let's look at it from the structure of what we are discussing. Now, at the party level, what is the work of National Assembly, for instance? Let us establish that. What is the work of National Assembly? Is to get us law and to have an oversight function over the government of the day. Now, we should not rule that particular function out and begin to look at other things that has to do with distribution of resources, because it is that angle that we are getting it wrong and informing people that, okay, National Assembly is also out to begin to distribute resources. No, they have to function, make law and oversight the law they are making. Now, on that angle now, the party must be able to harmonize all these differences in a way that the national interest must be played out, and that national interest is to ensure the sanity of National Assembly to carry out their function, their main primary function in essence of making laws and oversight the law, which is very key. But the other side where most of us are also interested is distribution of the resources of the country, which National Assembly members are shown to us that they are also out there to do. That means employment, infrastructural development, siting projects in their site. We know that that is not their work, but it has become a norm in our political structure, which we must, somehow we are accommodating. But we must also remind our people that is not their real function, because that alone have made it a rancor engagement in National Assembly that people are now justifying the essence why somebody must from our zone must be the Speaker or the Senate. And at the end of the day, what does it do to our economy? What does it do to our governance? What does it do to our development? It brings about ethnic and tribal religious activities into all these permutations that we are talking about, and we must avoid that. That is where I stand. But now, in terms of the competency, none of these guys are. Is it Abbas that is not competent to be a speaker, or Akpabio that is not competent to be a speaker? Even though this will be the second time we're going to the National Assembly, but we must know that it all boils down to how the entire National Assembly do their working. Do their working in the essence that if they have to go and do oversight function, it's not to go and just be following the MD or DG of particular agencies and begin to tell them when you're opening your portal for employment, remember me and remember my constituency. That's not what they ask you to go and do, even though it is expected us to engage in that. But we must let our people in the assembly primary function is to make law and oversight the law. But the competency boils down to individual in terms of how they have been able to impact the National Assembly, and the person that the national the speakership is falling on in the APC today has been regarded as one of the persons that have sponsored over more than 50 bills in National Assembly, or close to 121 bills. Does that person doesn't have a competency? Even though I'm not speaking for him, but we should look at the trajectory or the role or the narrative around this person that's coming to be the speaker and the one that's coming to be the Senate president.
So if, let's say, at the end of the whole Guinness, like we said, and this person's whose names have been pushed forward by the party, eventually become the leaders and deputy leaders of these both houses, how do they begin to make sure that the entire zone is carried along in terms of laws that they make, in terms of development that gets to these zones?
Exactly. I think that's what we should be talking about. Now, one of the key things is this. No, our fear as individuals, as citizens, or especially as analysts, is we normally talk about rubber stamp National Assembly, and I've been able to argue that what is that?
Because that's what we're
that's
thinking.
the fear.
By the time you say, okay, this person worked so well for the president elect, and once the president comes in, definitely you have to.
Whatever. So the fear is this: we don't want that. But even with that, what is that rubber stamp that we are talking about? Is it that when the president brings a bill that wants to help the nation out of a crisis, the National Assembly should not support that bill, or they should go against it? Because we must also need to clarify what the rubber stamp National Assembly is all about. But away from that, the key message is this, just like you have already pointed out in the question, how to bring about even development across the country. The key message or the key work of National Assembly is oversight and laws. They should be able to make laws that will guarantee a even development in Nigeria. You have just mentioned about tomato paste. How many of them have made laws that will guarantee we have a cottage tomato factory in each of the local government of Nigeria? 774 of them. How many of them have made such law? We should be able to charge them that this is the way to go. We are talking about electricity. How many of them have made laws that will ensure that our electricity generation is empowered in a way that infrastructure of that electricity is provided for. That is the way to go. That is what brings development. How many of them are interested in road infrastructure from the rural areas of their constituency down to the urban center of their state where they come from to the zone they come from? How many of them will make such law? That's what we should call it. And when such law is made, how do they synergize with the federal government to ensure that these laws become fruition? And not just federal government alone, there are state government, because our attention has always been on the federal government. Even though the federal government will say just of our revenue allocation, our focus has always been on them. But we also know that the House of Reps member, the senator representing the particular state, also have opportunity to engage with his state governors on how to bring development to his people. Not just development alone, including development that will change the narrative around the plight of their people. We should be able to engage with our National Assembly members that this is what they need to do, and not to forget the State House of Assembly. We are talking about rubber stamp National Assembly. What about rubber stamp State House of Assembly? We should have a discussion around that also, so that we can discourage people from carrying out such activities at the State Assembly. Because as it stands today, no State Assembly can challenge a governor. But at the National Assembly, we expect them to challenge the federal government. But at our state level, we don't want them to challenge the state government. Why? We should also take that same narrative down to the state level, whereby National State Assembly can also put it across to the governor that this is what we want to do. Imagine, there was a study that was part of recently about state budget. Most state governors in Nigeria don't even allow their state assembly to carry that, public hearing on their budget. Why? Because they know that that is the only sure way they can cook anything they want to cook in their accounting book and hide it from the eyes of the public. We should be able to change that narrative, just like we are challenging the National Assembly. When they carry out public hearing on budget, we should also say it at the state level. Public hearing should be conducted on state budget also. And that's the way we can have a fusion and a seamless development challenge. Because if federal government is chasing 10,000 development projects at nationally, state government should supposed to be chasing no less than 30,000 development projects at their state level. But here we are, when federal government starts, some state government will even become an hindrance to those development projects.
Well, I know our Benin studio are also getting ready to take the next guest from there. So as we wrap up, to hand over to Evans in our Benin studio. June 6th is just a few weeks from here.
Yes.
Yeah. So, what should we be expecting as we wrap up this discussion?
I'll just take it up from what you asked me. We want a competent, and when we talk about competence, we are not talking about credentials. We are talking about people who are ready to work, who have that integrity to ensure that when they put out a law in National Assembly, they follow through until the law is signed by the president, and not just signed, but it is practicable as is expected, and the law will bring smiles to Nigerian face.
All right, thank you so much, Dave, for Larry, for your inputs on this program. But let's extend a little before we go back to our Benin. Let's look at the relationship between the National Assembly and that's the legislative and the executive. The 10th Assembly, though, they are yet to be inaugurated, but we all, from what we've been saying so far, we know that there's going to be a working relationship between the two parties. But looking at the past, so many persons have always felt that the executive has so much power sometimes. If they decide who becomes the Senate president, for instance, like what we're making now, do you see that playing out in this administration, looking at the body language of the president-elect so far in the selection of who becomes either the Senate president or the speaker, in terms of the relationship between the executive and the National Assembly, if these persons emerge as leaders of the both chambers?
It's expected. The mistake that APC did in 2015, they didn't allow it to repeat in 2019 when they came back to power. And now the president-elect doesn't want to experience that. If you look back from 1999 to when APC came to power, PDP ruling party at the national level always ensure that the right person that will work with their president is emerged as the speaker as well as the Senate president. And APC currently do not want to have such challenges, and that's why you see that the president-elect is doing everything possible to ensure that he has in the kitchen the right person who will work with him in a good atmosphere in terms of making the law and ensuring that those laws are laws that can be signed, not laws that can come and become a body on the government or on the people per se. In this 9th Assembly, there are a lot of laws that they made that the government felt that if they sign those laws, it's going to be a challenge to the country. But we want practicable in laws, laws that when it is signed, Nigerians can quickly see the benefit in our economy, laws that will guarantee 24 hours electricity, laws that will guarantee free flow of traffic in our cities, because National Assembly can do that, because a lot of traffic. I was coming from from where I'm living down here. I have to wake up as early as 5 a.m. And this is not just happening in Abuja, it's happening in several of our big cities. They should have a law. They should be able to think of how to make a law that will make seamless traffic in our big cities. Not only that, what about water? There's need for us to have a law that will guarantee drinkable water for all Nigerians. We have been talking about wash. Many laws that they have been trying to put across to make us have wash. How many of them have seen the light of the day? And we need such laws to be put. What about laws that will ensure our children have opportunity to go to school, whereby no vice chancellor can be increasing school fees as if it's increasing whatever I want to increase. Just like what has happened in the University of Abuja recently. We don't want such. We want laws that can guarantee education, affordable education that is not too cheap but at least affordable for all. That even the poor man, a poor farmer, can send his child to universities. Those are the laws that we are looking for, and that's what we expect them to do as they come in on June 6th.
Yeah, I hope we don't get to a point where we see our lawmakers sleeping in chambers like we've been seeing. You just mentioned Abbas, who you said was someone who had so many bills, almost 150 within this period that he has been in the National Assembly for the 9th Assembly. Now let's look at constituency projects by members of the National Assembly. So many persons, if you've traveled around, you understand that not much has been seen in terms of development in rural areas. It is only when elections are approaching that you get to see these lawmakers visiting their hometown. I don't know, is this the right way to go when it comes to making laws for your people, making available projects and all that? Because the area of constituency project, it seems to have not really gotten it as a nation.
I think I'm one of those people that doesn't believe in constituency project. It's a fraud. It's a drain pipe in our national wealth.
Why did you say so?
Why did I say so? Have you seen any evidence of constituency project around where you stay? If you see one, they are not sustainable. They are just challenge projects that are not sustainable, that cannot be kept for a long time. There are projects that at the end of the day, it's like just a part for the particular House of Reps or senator that carried out that project. If not for the current government that changed the narrative about how constituency project was being carried out. Initially, they give them the money, but they now change the narrative whereby they now say, okay, if you want a constituency project, write to a particular agency that you want that constituency project to be carried out. And that's what they are doing. But you know what they have learned? Even with this current dispensation, they are announced, okay, go to a particular agency, go to a particular minister and tell them what your constituency project have done. Now, they now select the contractor to handle that project. Meanwhile, some of them owns those contracts, some of them owns those companies that carry out those contracts. That's why those projects are not sustainable. In the area I stay, one of the constituency projects of the House of Reps that are representing Karo Jitata, if you permit me to mention his name, he bought a transformer for a community that have more than 3,000 inhabitants. And he said, I want to give them transformer. And when he bought the transformer, he gave the transformer to the inhabitant, the original inhabitant of that community. And today, they have not been able to install that particular transformer. Why? They said it is for them. And they are forgetting that there are other Nigerians that stay in that community. So how sustainable is such project? In as much as the theory around constituency project is fine in reading it on paper, but in practicality, it is not as.
So now how do we address it? Now, if you say, okay, fine, the administration, this present administration said, okay, go to ministries, agencies to execute your project. And we've seen faults in all this constituency project. Now, how do we go about it so that the persons or people they are representing have a feeling that yes, someone who represents us at the national level has this impact? It's not all about saying them distributing, like you said, some of them are not sustainable. Some empowerment program, you give somebody a bike, and probably after 1 year,
you can't find the
you
bike.
Can't find the bike.
Or you will go and sell it.
So how do we go about this so we now have a true reflection of what a constituency project should be like?
I think a rethinking around it is better. And how to rethink is this. We have local government. We have wards of each area. We have over 144,000 wards across Nigeria. Those constituency projects we are talking, why can't we turn it to ward project? Whereby it can be done by an agency or government relating with the local government and relating with the ward level. Because if you are giving it to House of Reps member, you usually need to seek for election. Even though a ward councillor can also use it, but you are not dealing with the ward councillor directly. You are dealing with the people within that community. But my challenge with some of these government projects is that the moment a particular project comes, a set of political party member hijack that project. A lot of empowerment has been carried out by government, but what happened to those empowerment? Political party of that particular area hijacked that project and said, and what they normally do, they quickly inform members of their parties that so thing is happening. All of them were assembled at local government, and that's how it ends. The people, other people that are not part of that political party, we don't get the feel of it. Just like that transformer I'm telling you about. When they brought it, it was hijacked by the political members, and they took it to their chief house, and they say it is meant for them, not for gender in that area. And I was like, something that come from our national purpose. So in this regards, now, can we work this constitutional project with world level? And when you say world level, constitute people within that environment and inform them about that project. What we normally see, we just say signboard. When you see signboard, you know that this is a constitutional project. And as an analyst, I normally read them. The moment I say, no, this is a constitutional project, you see a signboard that they are going to dig a borehole. And that borehole, they will bring solar. And within 6 months, everything has disappeared. And you'll be wondering, this is a borehole that was dig for the people. Where is the solar? Where is the everything? Because it is not sustainable. Rather, let us work with the world level. And again, there are projects that we don't need to even be spending our money. Why would the government be wasting money digging borehole for people when you know that you cannot sustain that borehole? Already, people are already digging borehole for themselves. Work on the state water board. That is the best. The money you have channeled to build 10,000 borehole, channel into water board of that particular state or that particular local government, it will be better. And that will help us a long way. But rather than giving money, dig borehole, and ask them, most of them that say they will do a feeder road in the rural areas, it is rather what they call earth road, red sand. They will just fill it, there is no drainage, and they will tell you they have done. I have seen several of them in Nasarawa and another part of the country as an analyst.
All right, thank you so much for, because I really wanted us to look at that very aspect of constituency projects. It has always been a topic for discussion if it comes to development in our rural areas. Now let's come back to the parties involved. Now, if you look at some of the dailies today, some are already anticipating that there will be crisis, or already there is crisis in the ruling party because of some persons who are not satisfied with the zoning, as it's alleged has been zoned for those key positions in the National Assembly. Now, do you envisage any diversion at a point in the National Assembly if these people that are already lamenting that they are not okay with the zoning, that it might not go in the way the party wants it?
We can't rule that out, but it will be better to work with their party than go and work for their selfish interest, because at the end of the day, the party has a way of punishing most of them. Look at the current National Assembly members that come. Majority of them didn't come. You know how party punish? They collect. When election come, they won't give you ticket, and that's how they punish. That's why you see that more than 70% of them are not coming. Even those ones that are lucky to have come back, they knew how they struggle. So they must understand that sometimes party supremacy work out very well for the benefit of all. They should just understand that this is as a result of what the national hierarchy of the party is thinking. It could benefit them tomorrow, but today that is not benefiting them. Why don't you just work with the party? Although, as I said earlier, it's all about personal interest. If they go more than this and go and work against their party, the party will allow them to do it. Nobody will stop anybody from working in National Assembly as a speaker, as a deputy speaker, whatever. You will do your work, but know that when times come, when the pull become push, then the party will definitely want to take a disciplinary action against some of them. It has happened in the past. You remember in 2015, when the former Senate president worked against his own political party, and when it's time for him to come back, you can see now, even in the political calculation of Nigeria, nobody talk about him anymore. And even when he tried to do one or two things, even at the state level, he's having a big fight. So party know how to punish people who will go against them. But what we are calling for is that among us to work together. It may not benefit you today, but tomorrow it may be your turn. But allow the party to take decision. Because in development climb that we normally talk about, it is the party supremacy. When the party decides that this is where we want to go, and everybody follow. And if you commit any political suicide against your party, definitely that is the end of your own career politically. But here we are in Nigeria. If you commit such error, you will definitely get support and continue. But in this regard now, we should just encourage them that obey the party supremacy and follow what the party is saying. But another thing is this: the person that is coming as president-elect is a political strategist. I don't see him discouraging or doing action that will discourage all those people to go and do what they think they can do, but rather it may bring all of them back to the fold and discuss with them. If you don't get this time around, definitely you get it tomorrow.
Because why I ask this, I know that even the emergence of Bola Ahmed Tinubu, you remember when the party held its convention here in Abuja, and there was this certain motion that the national chairman of the party had a preferred candidate.
Definitely.
You saw what's really played out, all that. So that's why I'm asking that we're not going to be seeing such disunity among the party. But like you mentioned, they should work together to ensure that the party still remains supreme and the party decide what will happen. But let's digress a little and look at the inauguration or the swearing in of the president-elect, which is about less than 3 weeks from today. So many persons have been setting agendas for the president-elect, and any moment from now, we expect that the president, the outgoing president, should dissolve his cabinet. Looking at the calibers of persons that we've been hearing, people are penciling so many names for different ministerial or normal political appointments. What should the president be looking at this time, president-elect, so that we don't have leaders or heads of departments or heads of ministries that will come in and not give us the desired change that we are, because the party is still on that change mantra. So what should we be looking at in terms of employment, rather in terms of appointment by the coming administration of President-elect Bola Ahmed Tinubu?
For me, I'm not too expectant. I said it even before the election took place. I talked about all the candidates that came there. I'm not too expectant of anything new from all of them, because in Nigerian climate, the way we practice our politics, the recruitment of leadership into position of authority in Nigeria has always been on the basis of personal interest and personal, what they think they will get and what they think their associate, their nominate, the people who nominate them will get. In this case now, definitely it's going to nominate people for position, ministers, head of agencies, and the rest of them. Now, the people who are going to pen down those people, they are thinking of one thing. They are working behind the stage. What do they want to get? But the people, if they nominate somebody now that have that fear of God, that want to come and do what is right, and the people that nominate him are thinking otherwise, what do you think will happen? In most of these cases that we have seen people that have been appointed, sometimes it is not on their fault that they didn't perform, but it is based on the people who nominate them for a particular position. You made mention of national chairman of that particular party having an interest in someone else. Now, because of that, it didn't work out. Now, the same thing will happen at the appointment of people. The president-elect will not be the sole appointee of everybody in his cabinet. Definitely, political parties will also play a role. And in playing that role, they will definitely want to put their stooges, someone who will go there and do their bidding for them. And that's why we normally find ourselves in problems. That's why they will not prioritize development on the basis of their own personal interest, or not on the basis of national interest. And that's why we normally have problems. But our prayer is this, that we want people who have that integrity. Me, I'm not even looking for somebody with too much grammar or somebody with too much credentials. I just want somebody that has the fear, the integrity to do everything right. When I mean everything right, do everything in the possible best to ensure. We are talking about electricity. We are talking about tomato being a waste product because we don't have any processing plant to get. We are thinking of someone that can come into that position and say, okay, this is what we need to do, and it will be practicable, and it will be workable, and Nigerians will see the benefit. That's what I'm looking at. I'm not looking for somebody that will bring from Harvard or from IMF or World Bank. I'm just looking for somebody that understands the local politics.
So what kind of persons you feel can make up the economic team of Bola Ahmed Tinubu? Because most persons are looking at his antecedents, being a governor, former governor of Lagos State, what he did with Lagos State, making it a very strong economic base in Africa. And they want probably for him to do it at the national level. So if you're looking at as an economist also, what kind of team should he surround himself with?
First and foremost, we must understand Tinubu is a fiscalist.
Okay.
A fiscalist is someone that believes in tax administration that will enhance the economy. So, first and foremost, we must understand this person is coming with that idea of how to harmonize our tax. It will not be tax that will be too imposing on the poor, because the Lagos one, it wasn't that people feel too bad about the tax, but rather it's a tax that generates money for the government and for the state. In this case now, we should expect economists, we should expect people who understand the financial grammar and financial working, around how to empower the economy. But we must not rule out that in this dispensation of the new coming government, there will be challenges in terms of how revenue can be really, really harmonized, because a lot of laws are in place right now. And for me, it is how to harmonize those laws. We have laws that guarantee custom collecting this, FRS collecting this, that one collecting this, government collecting this, local government collecting this. If those laws are not harmonized in the way that to ensure that we have a better revenue, then we're going to have challenges. Another issue is this: in terms of the economy, we need someone that understands the rhythm of our local economy. And we must understand is that Nigerian economy is on a foundation of buying and selling. It's a trading economy. It has not yet turned into a complex engineering and re-engineering economy that we can now be producing complex products to sell. It is still a consumption economy whereby we just consume, and we are not producing. And we must also understand that it's an import-driven economy. So the government coming must be able to see what can we do to change this narrative about an import-dependent economy that we have. And one of the things they must be able to break even first is the importation of fuel. What can we do? Even though the Dangote refinery is coming in the next 2 days or the next 2 weeks to start operation, what else can the government do on their part to ensure that with Dangote and with their own, it will be more workable? Because if we be able to change the narrative around the energy sector, that is the fuel consumption, it will go a long way to reduce the negative impact on the economy. The cost of production, the cost of operation will definitely come down, and the cost of transportation will also come down. Even the cost of production of food item, complementary item for the food production sector can also come down. And we will have a live of what is happening around them through the energy release that we are going to talk about. Because for me, the energy economy of the government must be well tackled, and that is the only best way we can reduce other impact, negative impact on the economy.
Because I know why I asked you that question. Lagos is just a state, even though some persons will say Lagos is bigger than some countries, even in West Africa and beyond. Now, this administration, outgoing administration, invested so much on infrastructure. Most of the loans that were collected, some persons justify the fact that we have railways. Some states have roads that are maybe okay to some level. Now, if you're looking at investing in infrastructure for this administration now, what areas should this administration, are we going to be looking at infrastructure all the time? You talked about Nigeria being just a consumption economy. Are there areas of investment should we migrate to rather than infrastructure? Because the loans are there. You cannot, if you have good roads, for instance, how do you begin to generate money to pay back your loans?
Exactly. And one of the things that we need to understand, they have invested in infrastructure. The other aspect they need to take up, not that this coming government will stop investing in infrastructure, because in the entire road infrastructure that the current government has done, it's just 24,000 kilometers of roads.
It is not enough
it's not
to cover
enough.
the entire
It has not even
country.
covered half of the country or quarter of the country. So there are other aspects of the infrastructure they need to cover. The rail is still there. We have not done much in the rail. And rail haulage, when I mean rail haulage, this one that we have a lot of trailers pulling goods from here and there. Rail would have helped us to reduce those impacts, because the more trailers, loaded trailers that are pulled on our road, the more damaging their cost on the road. So if we can invest in the rail also, that will help us to bring goods from Lagos to Abuja, to Kano, from Maiduguri and all parts of the country, it will go a long way. So we must not stop investing in infrastructure. But one thing that this current government must take advantage of is that security. They must find a way to synergize and have a synthetic investment in security. And we are not talking about boot soldiers or foot soldiers alone. We are talking about intelligence. We are talking about technology that can enhance security across the country. We are not talking about the 419 type of investment in security that we say we are bringing camera here and there. That is not what we are talking about. We are talking about sophisticated investment in security that will ensure that every part of Nigeria is secure, including our waterways, our borders, the airspace, the water space, and every other aspect of the country, including our forests, are secure. If they can take advantage of that, it will go a long way to reduce the tension on our economy, because insecurity has so much play a negative impact on our economy. It has reduced a lot of it. Just recently, I think a week ago, in my program, on my radio show program, Economic Focus, whereby it was highlighted that foreign investment have so much reduced in the last 3 years. Why? Because of insecurity. So how will the new government be able to buy in the confidence of these investors and bring them back? I'm not talking about investment in the stock exchange. I'm talking about concrete investors that will partner with local government, partner with state government, and build factories and industries all across the country. That's what I'm talking about. The only way that can guarantee such is what? Security. You must be able to think and prioritize security in the best way they can do it.
All right, I think Evans from Benin Studio has some questions for you, so that we'll be, let's have a feel from Benin on what he thinks about the discussions. Where we've gone really beyond where we're supposed to be looking at. We've looked at the National Assembly, we're looking at setting agenda now for the president-elect, and Evans will be joining us any moment now to ask his own question from our Benin studio. If Evans is ready.
All right, thank you so much, Dominic, and a very thank you to your guest there, Ade Folari. Now, let's start from the 10th Assembly leadership thing. There's an issue here. The lawmakers are going to be sworn in, and at the moment they are sworn in, they are no more seen on the basis of political parties anymore. They are seen on the basis that they represent a vast number of Nigerians. Now, where do we meet now? Where does it meet? Political interest and, of course, the interest of Nigerians. We need to emphasize on that. That's one issue. That's one question, perhaps. Now, on the issue of investment opportunities and how investors have left Nigeria over the past few years, just like what Adefolari said there. Now, it is not just an issue that has to do with insecurity. It is a major issue, though. But let's look at the issue of power. A while ago, Dominic, we started this show by, you notifying us that the issue of power has been a major problem in Abuja. Now, where will the incoming government start from as it relates to power? We have a major, big issue in this country as it relates to power today. Where will the government start from?
Okay, to answer your question, let's look at the National Assembly as I earlier said before. I made mention that the primary work of National Assembly members for national interest is to make laws and to have an oversight function that will allow them to oversight the laws that are made in respect to the development programs of any government in power. Now, the national interest now boils down to each member of the National Assembly playing a key role in ensuring that, as you rightly pointed out in your question, it's not for personal interest, it's not about zoning, but the entire Nigeria as a whole. So they may be able to ensure that as they are overseeing those laws, they are not overseeing law as a result of personal interest that what they want to make in the National Assembly, but what they want to ensure that entire Nigeria make in whole. Talks about laws that will ensure that, you rightly pointed out about electricity. I want to give kudos to the 9th National Assembly. Right now, there is opportunity for state governors at the state level as of national level to begin to generate electricity. Now, National Assembly members that are coming in the 10th Assembly must oversight that law to ensure that each one of them that come from each of the states, 36 states, including the one that is representing FCT, must ensure that the autonomy, the power that has been given to state governors to generate electricity is workable, is practicable, is ensured. Because the challenge we always have is that a particular state will say we are going to power generation. When they finish generating, the federal government will say, no, link it up to the national grid. Now, it is not like that again. You can generate and and sell to your people. That is the law the 9th Assembly has made. Now, the 10th Assembly must make sure that they follow this law too and ensure that those state governors do the right thing in this regard. Another aspect that we also need to look in terms of economy from the angle of electricity is this. Now, we have always have issue whereby the National Electricity Regulatory Agency, NEC, has only talk about bill or personal bill, whatever they call it. Now, it is now time for National Assembly members to look at the laws, because in one of the reports that you read in your newspaper review, over 168% increase in electricity bills, and Nigeria is still paying for darkness. What it means is that what else can we do apart from just increasing the bills? I've suggested on several platforms that there's what they call pay as you consume. Can we introduce such into our lexicon of electricity generation, whereby not estimated bills? If I have light for 3 hours and the disco or the distribution company that gave me that light know that they gave me light for 3 hours, they should be able to give me bill for 3 hours, not giving me estimated bill for 1 month that will be equivalent, that will be telling me to pay 20,000. I think that should be the next line for the 10th Assembly to take up. That if you are having a light or consuming light for 3 hours, it should be exactly that 3 hours you should pay for. Then again, there's a challenge we must also be able to outline in the bills of electricity. There are different categories of charges they put. They put maintenance fee, They put service fee, they put VAT, they put this, they put that. They even put anonymous fee that you don't even understand, and this accumulated into what Nigerian pays as electricity bill. Meanwhile, it is all darkness. Should we, can the National Assembly, 10 Assembly, look at these charges and be able to streamline them in a way that it is those ones that are feasible, that Nigerians are consuming, that Nigerians understand, that can be paid for. Just recently, one of the generating electricity company was declaring profit in billions of naira, and people ask, where do they get this money from? And the answer was that we are paying for darkness. So you should be able to look at the workings of all the electricity generation company and see that they are not just making billions out of the air, but they are making that billions and by providing service for Nigerians as is expected.
I know you talked about investment in power sector, which you, okay, go ahead.
Okay. All right.
Go ahead, sir.
The Ninth Assembly, or maybe the Seventh Assembly, was actually the assembly that started the way to privatize power in the country, electricity and all that. But we're really not seeing any light in that direction as we speak now. Whether power is privatized in Nigeria or not, a lot of Nigerians, they don't know because they are not feeling the effects of whether electricity is privatized or not. Now, don't you think that the 10th Assembly should come in with a very robust legislation so that what happens in the telecommunication industry can also begin to happen in the power industry, so that Nigerians can begin to have options. Take, for example, in telecommunications, you have more than 4 or 5 major brands in the country, so that we don't leave it in the hands of a certain, power company, as it were.
I think you are very correct, and I think that's why the Ninth Assembly made it possible that the constitution now made the opportunity that state government can now also go into electricity generation. Now, what is now left for the state governors is who can they partner with, who can be their ally, who can be their collaborator in ensuring that they are not coming into that business to defraud the people or to fraudulently take what they have not, the service they have not done, and begin to collect money on it. Because what we are experiencing is this: the privatization of the electricity sector of the economy has not really given us the best in terms of giving service to the people. But what we need to do, as you already pointed, the 10th Assembly cannot be a law that will now revive, and ensure that we have the right people engaged in the privatization sector of the economy, especially the electricity sector. Is this one, for me, from my own perspective, is this: now that state government can now partner with other people to ensure that they bring light to the people. Now, can the National Assembly make laws that will ensure that, as I proposed earlier, pay as you consume? If we are going to have a pay as you consume law in terms of electricity, the electricity company, they will work their ass out and they will do the right thing, because they know that if I only consume light for 3 hours and I'm going to pay for that 3 hours, there won't be any challenge. But if they give me light for 10 hours and I'm paying for the 10 hours, there won't be any challenge. But in situation whereby they did not give me light for 10 hours, I'm paying for 10 hours. They did not give me light for throughout the month and I'm paying for the entire month. That's why we are having challenges. And again, the transmission company of Nigeria has always come with this challenge that it is not, the problem is not generation, the problem is evacuation. So how many people or how many investors are ready to evacuate the electricity that generation have been made available? That's why you see that most of the lines that we're having, from the national grid line to the 33 kVA to the 100 kVA, all of them that have been put across, they're challenging of step down, whereby although the government established a particular agency, River Electricity Development Education Agency, to ensure that this electricity is distributed across board, but they have been so concerned with rural areas to the point that they are not even engaging in solar energy, leaving their primary agencies. But what we are trying to say here is this: now that there is a law in place to ensure that state governor also generates electricity, can they have a strong investor that will partner with them and ensure that this generation comes down to the people? And for me, that generation must come, but the consumption of that electricity must be parity with what they give me to consume and what I have to pay. But it's whereby I'm paying what I'm not consuming, and that's why Nigeria normally have this problem. That's why most of us are complaining that the privatization has not worked, because what we are saying is that we are paying for what we have not consumed. But on the moment we have started paying for what we consume, then the investors will get it right, the company will get it right, and they will have smile for themselves, just like which will be smile to the for ourselves that we have electricity in Nigeria.
Okay, just before I let you go now, I think we also need to emphasize that there should be a special legislation too by the 10th Assembly that state governors will not be allowed, should not be allowed to politicize electricity. Because, you know, state governors, these are politicians. They can do anything to their political advantage. So the 10th Assembly should emphasize that state governor will not be allowed to want to politicize electricity. I think we also need to emphasize that too.
Exactly. It's a good way to go. But the key message is that even if they are going to politicize, they should politicize it in a positive way. That there will be an even generation of electricity for entire people in their state. Not just for the indigenous of the state alone, but the entire people in their state. And again, for me, in politicizing that electricity, in my own positive view is this. Let them politicize it in a way that industries will be settled in their state to come and use that power to generate employment for their people. That will be a good positive, a good politicization of electricity generation in their state respectively.
All right, so that's all
so
from
much,
Benin
Evans.
Network Center. Back to you, Dominic in Abuja.
All right, thank you, Evans. You had so much to say in the past 1 hour. I will be looking at different issues on National Assembly down to national development. But as we wrap up this segment, I asked you earlier that what should we be expecting as the the 10th Assembly is being inaugurated on the 6th of June. I think I've looked at that, but let's just wrap it up by kind of advice to those who will be coming, let's say freshers who will be coming for the first time.
Exactly.
Now, what should they be doing? What should be their focus? Because it's not about trying to satisfy your party.
Exactly.
And you now come in there and now forget the reason why you're there at the first place. Everybody, because we had this belief that when somebody is appointed, or probably when you contest for a particular office that is supposed to be for 4 years, and you have the interest of coming back for another 4 years, your first 4 years you tend to concentrate, probably do some little development, and then your last tenure you want to equip what you've spent during the campaign. That's some kind of assumption by some persons. What should the new comers into the National Assembly be doing in terms of ensuring that they make quality laws, so we don't start seeing people in clips sleeping, like what we see played out in the 10th Assembly?
I think to take it off from there, one of the key message or advice we'll give to them is that, number one, understand the ground norms of National Assembly. Understand the ground rules that guide you as a member of National Assembly. What you need to do and what you don't need to do. You must understand that, because in the 9th Assembly, a lot of them commit a lot of blunder. They don't understand their left and right from what is happening in National Assembly. Then two is this: you are there to go and make law. A lot of them did not make positive impact in terms of bill sponsorship. Even when private individuals take bills to them, they just collect it and dump it. I have bills that a group of some of my analysts, economic analysts, are taken to National Assembly. Today, none of them take it up, even though we didn't have the power to go and say, okay, you didn't do this. But what I'm trying to say is that they should be able to partner with analysts like us, NGOs. If they cannot write bills on their own, they should partner with them and bring bills they can sponsor. Either a private member bills or a public sponsor bills. It will go a long way. And again, in the coming government may bring a lot of bills to the National Assembly. They should thoroughly look at those bills. And they should ensure that those bills are bills that will ensure a better development of Nigeria, not a selfish one that will continue to empower some group of people in the country, but rather they should look at the bills as bills that will empower Nigeria, and that will not become a challenge to the country, because a lot of bills will be coming in the establishment of this, establishment of that. No, that is not the kind of bills we are looking for, because we have a lot of establishment that we need to even put out of the system, but because of revenue. But what they should be looking at is how to get laws that will be more practicable and more workable, that will be more beneficiary to Nigerians as a whole.
Thank you so much for your time, Adefolare and Olabinlekan, for your analysis this morning on the topic. We're looking at National Assembly 10th election race for leadership position, and we also looked at other areas of development, especially the electricity. Just like Evans pointed out from our Benin studio, we need to actually look at that in this coming administration, how we can get these things working. Well, we'll take a quick break, and when we return, the program this morning on Night TV continues.